Good morning. How are you all doing today? How was the week? We're here again as usual. As usual. So during the week, big events happened for big people. And guess what? I know there's multiple events that happened though, but the one we have brought today is the big wedding that happened between the Otedola and the Ajibades. That's Eazi and Temi Otedola, who got married and they just concluded this week, and we're want to look at the apart from the glamour of the wedding, that wedding gown, everything was on point. You need to see the wedding gown, the people at the event itself. It's full of glamour that you would love to be part of it. And we're looking beyond that glamour and the glitz. So we want to look about the lessons, the love in that relationship. We want to look about the respect in there, and want to look into submission. So many things came to our mind. We saw how Temi dropped her last name, the big last name, Otedola, and on her Instagram handle she changed it already to Ajibade, and people were like, really? So soon? Are you just praying to drop this Otedola name? Has Otedola name not done a lot of good for you that you just want to drop it just like that? And people started comparing it with other people who immediately after marriage, because of little name, they don't drop their last name. They don't drop it because of their name or fame. Even that one too happened to me sometimes ago. I will share my story too. And we'll talk about how she married down. A lot of people say she married down. Marrying Ajibade was like marrying her, because he's a young man who was doing well for himself. And he built wealth by himself, and he grew up to this without, inheritance, without family support. He did that all by himself. And here on the other side, Temi came from a wealthy background. And people were like, how would he marry? Why didn't she marry somebody who is also from a wealthy background? While Ajibade, who is just growing by himself. So a lot of people said they married her. And luckily for me too, I went to search on the Google, and I asked between Temi Otedola and Eazi, who is richer. And Google told me that Temi is richer than Ajibade. And this also is going to bring also the conversation of a woman marrying down in a relationship. Financially, who is married down financially in a relationship? Is it going to be a plus for her, or is it a sign of humility? Is it a sign of trying to be the other way around? So in today's world, is she gonna have the peace that she desire? So, and the second one is submission, also a virtue in marriage, because we saw also in the video clips where the father was telling her that she needs to submit to the whims and the caprices of the husband, and that she should not call him anymore. So if you need anything, if you want anything, call your husband. Don't call my name again. So that she needs to submit. And a lot of people question that why should she submit to the whims and caprices of the husband? Is that not the father trying to give Eazi the tool to control the wife? So, and that brought us. So we're not really talking about these people in question, but we're going to be talking about the lessons and stories that we can take home from it. So, is marrying down a lady who is doing well for herself, who got a good job? Can she marry down? And if after marrying down she will have a peace, we'll talk about that. If marrying down, she would not have to, drop herself to satisfy the man. What kind of insecurity comes in place for man who sees that their wife is doing well more than they do? So, and also dropping the powerful name. I remember when I was on the radio, while I was working at the AIT and Ray Powers at the time. So I was using my last name. I was, before I got married. So my last name became So in my community, then I believe my household name is already known because I'm already in the news. I have a segment of a program that I handle. You know, I go to people, I introduce myself as this and this and this. So when I got married, I was like, so the little name that I got in my space in Ibadan, then am I going to drop it and pick my new name? And people wonder who is Adeola again. So I began to compound the name. Then you hear Adeola okay Fatumbi, and in my little space, in my little, you know, that little space, I feel that my name is being known in the community already, because when I go out, people already can point to me that, oh, that's Adeola, Adeola, okay, that we've always heard on the radio or we've always heard on the TV. That is the name. So when I got married, it became uneasy for me, as much as I want to use my husband's name, but I still want to maintain that name that a lot of people have known me on for. And also a lot of celebrities too are in that corner that even when they got married, they don't change their last name because the name has already become a brand. So in this Otedola case, is the name not a brand for her already? Because that name's open door. I was expecting her to, you know, compound the name. Probably say Temi Otedola Ajibade. But now she just dropped out Otedola that a lot of people would do anything to get that name. And you got the name and you're dropping the name for Ajibade. Ajibade. So that is what we're going to be talking about. Should a woman drop, and is dropping or picking up her last name, is it a traditional thing? And is how important is it? Is it necessary for a woman to drop her last name to pick the husband's last name? Is it for, like, what are the pros and cons of dropping your last name to pick your husband's last name? So these are many more we'll be discussing. And also talk about the father's word saying that he should submit. Naturally, we all know that submission is part of marriage, that if you're not ready to submit, you shouldn't be in the marriage. But a lot of time we've seen where men have abused the word submission. We've seen where they use the word indiscriminately and just to get away with things. So now, what is Otedola saying in the course of saying you should submit to the husband? Can somebody help us to, you know, break it down what submission is? I hope submission is not losing yourself in the course of submitting to your man. I hope submission is not going to be, I hope submission won't be losing your property, losing your name, losing what you have become to your husband, depending on who the husband is. So, you know, we're not talking about Ajibade here. We're not talking about Temi here, but we're just going to bring it to our lives. So let me pause here while I see if I have other people around me, my top fans and other followers and my other co-hosts. Where are my co-hosts? I do. I don't even understand this my video. Okay, let's see if we have. I'm trying to get other people here so we can jump into the conversation. I don't want to do the talking alone and by myself, okay? So we're gonna get others here. So should a woman give up her last name, a popular and successful last name, for husband's name? So that's, is it which one is more important? Is it because of your identity is more important than what's it called, than the marriage, than tradition? Hold on 1 minute. So should should you leave your last name for your popular and successful last name for your husband? One, that was what Temi Otedola did. She went on her Instagram, though I know it's going to take a while before she does it on. I hope she. I got distracted. Sorry. I hope she does it on a regular, on a what's called documents, but on Instagram she went as far as possible. Like, she's so proud to answer that Ajibade's name. I'm like, So, and also, can a woman be comfortably married down, like marry somebody who is not as financially strong as you are? And will you still gonna have your peace in today's world? Are men not insecure? So how do you handle insecurity among men in that scenario, in that case? And also, is submission a virtue in today's marriage, or is just a tool to control women? So these are the 3 points we're gonna be 3 conversations we'll be having. So while other co-host join us, we'll look into it. Should submission be still a virtue in 2025? Yeah. Is submission still a virtue in 2025? So we'll be talking about Temi Otedola and good morning.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon from your side. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, fine, thank you.
So, how's your side? So,
Yeah, everything is fine. It's a rainy day over here, so but it's a good day.
did you wait for your jollof rice yesterday? We had a jollof rice party yesterday.
Definitely not. Definitely not. The pot was too big, so I don't trust I don't trust the whole process and all.
Oh, what doesn't matter? The process was good. What do you mean by I don't trust the process? She cook a big pot of jollof rice for all of us to eat.
Well, there are people who think that the procedure to which the whole thing was made was not hygienic enough. It's a really good. I think it's really good to applaud her ability to always
Come
come
up
up
with
with one
something, yeah.
or the other. So,
Did you
Mr.
go and
C.
eat jollof rice yesterday too?
Àjọ wà ń bẹ̀ ni.
Ajo abe ojo.
Mm.
Lóòótọ́ làásì.
Oh my goodness, but I like that initiative. And it's speaking good word. Both like people to Apada for in village people do not let the pop to be in the museum. So you're welcome to today's segment. Today we'll be talking about love, respect, and submission while we navigate modern. Don't forget the word modern marriage. We are not talking about olden days marriage, today's marriage. And then we're going to beam our light into the just concluded Temi Otedola and Tosa Ajibade's wedding, who at that wedding, so many things happened. We could see a lot of glamour, see class, we see, everything that was needed in marriage. But what came caught our attention was immediately after the wedding or during the wedding, Ajibade went, Otedola went on her Instagram handle and she changed her last name to Ajibade. And people were like, have you been waiting to drop this name? Name that a lot of people aspire to bear, to answer, and you got to you are ready to drop it for anything. That's all of the shark you. So this brought a lot of conversation. Why will a woman drop her last name for anything? Especially when you have small fame or that name is powerful and is popular. So how do you handle it? Do you drop your last name because of your tradition, or you need to keep it for identity's sake? So I just check, you want to start, please.
Well, I think the adoption of the husband's last name is a traditional thing, and is a symbolic thing that shows that okay, you're actually joining a new family. So I think it's important that people take that name. Although I've not even had the strength to contribute to all the talks around her changing her name, taking her husband name, which I think is the right thing to do. I think the reason why people are actually having different thoughts about it is just because of our social status and our father's
Yeah.
name. That's why it's being debated. If the case was around, if the case was the other way around, where it was just a commoner that nobody knew, right? Nobody will talk about that, right? Nobody's going to talk about her dropping that. She will gladly drop the last name. But I think also seeing, Temi Otedola advise that she should be obedient, she should be, what was the word she used? That she should
submit to the winds
submit
and
to
caprices.
yeah, I think seeing someone of his caliber talk about that shows that there are traditional values of marriage that we must follow. That if you follow it, I think you will get it right, and if you don't follow it, you'll probably make a mistake. And I'll stop there.
Small name that I used 1 year to build in Ibadan. Me, I was not ready to drop it. I remember those times I was, any small thing in the radio, Adela reporting, Adela okay reporting, Adela okay reporting. So a lot of my followers are fans who know that I've gone to report, they know my name. I always got to hear that Adela okay. How will I now come back and say it is Alpha Tumbi? That's my small, popular, and successful name. I didn't want to drop it during that time. So let alone Otedola that is worldwide. Properly, what do you think about it? Do you think she needs to keep that powerful and successful name instead of dropping it for Ajibade?
Okay. Is she
Káàbọ̀.
Bologna? Bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe ń kó wa jẹ̀pẹ́, ẹ máa kó wa jẹ̀pẹ́. Lórí ọ̀rọ̀ tó wà ńlẹ̀, well, to me, yes, Otedola name is a powerful name, right? However, is there anything with that name that is associated to a brand for her? That is the question that I would want to ask, right? It's understandable if ladies want to keep their father's name for whatever reason, right? It's not an enforceable thing that, oh, you must change your name to your husband's name. However, the reason why you're keeping it has to be known, right? To me, why she did not stick with Otedola's name is because the reason to keep it is not greater than the reason to change it. And that has to do with the brand that is associated with the name. If there's no brand, if it's not known, like as a public figure by that name, there's really no need to keep the name. And again, back to what Mr. Ajashegun said, is customary and it's all of that. But again, this is 2025, like you said, there's no one that is enforcing that, right? Otedola name, like I want to say that I get her know the shout, right? Temi does not need to prove that she's Otedola for that name to open door for her. So why keep the name when you can change the name to your husband's name? That's my own point of view around that. I don't think she's losing anything by changing the name, because of the fact that even in the, and the other thing that we need to look at for is, if we're looking at it from the social, what is the word that I'm looking for now? Showbiz part of it, right? I would say that the husband's name carry more weight than Otedola in the showbiz world. The husband is Mr. Eazi. She would get more, and again, I'm sorry for saying this, I might be wrong, but I believe she would get more gigs by saying the wife of Mr. Eazi in the showbiz world. Like, and by showbiz I mean in music, in acting and all of that, than she's Otedola's daughter. That's number one. Number two is what I said earlier, actually. She doesn't need to keep that name. Once she show up, everybody knows that she is Otedola's daughter. So why keep the name? I don't see anything that she's losing for dropping the name Otedola. That's my own point of view. You mentioned your case, right, as to why you didn't want to drop your last name. Honestly, it was because, maybe it's because of the kind of job that you do, right? I want to guess you're in the in people's face, on the television and all of that. Yeah, that is the branding part of it. Everybody knows you as okay. To now start changing it to another name, you have to now start build. People will now be like, who is this? Who is okay? You understand? That is where sticking to name kind of like makes sense. I'll give you an example. Fathia Balogun, right? Fathia Balogun adopted her husband's name, Saeed Balogun. And when they divorced each other, she kept that Fathia Balogun. Why? Because that name there's been a cemented brand around that name. So she knows that she was going to lose something, which is followership, if he drops that name, Balogun. Eventually, she changed it to Williams. But trust me, to tomorrow, the people that knows her will still refer to her as Fathia Balogun, not Fathia Williams. That is example of what I'm saying by, we shouldn't put everybody in the bucket of, oh, why should women drop their name? No, the people that are dropping or sticking to their father's name are doing it for a reason, which is the brand that is associated to that name. I can give another example. Joke Silva did not adopt Joke Jacobs because she had built as a beauty queen. She has built the name Joke Silva. It would be a disastrous thing for our brand to drop that Silva and say, I want to be Joke Jacobs. Even up till now, that everybody is now knowing her as Olu Jacobs' wife, everybody still referred to as Joke Silva. You understand the point that I'm making? So there are reasons to sticking to your father's name or not. Another example, Omotola Jolade Ikendi, that one adopted the compound name, right? But the reason why she adopted she kept Jolade was because everybody knew her as Omotola Jolade when she was acting. So it's a brand thing, not I don't see it as a social strata or class thing. It's more of a brand. Temi Otedola does not have
Otedola, the name itself is a brand that it opens any door. Just say I am Otedola. They don't want to know. Even if you are Agbole Otedola, they will open eye first before they ask, like, are you related to Femi?
But no, but the point, see, I get it, but the point that I'm making is she will not lose followership because she dropped the name Otedola as a brand, not as a family name now, as a brand. That's why I'm giving the example of branding for the reasons why people stick to the name. Sticking to Otedola does not change anything. Why dropping it also does not change anything. If she doesn't have, if you look at the reasons, the people that follows her, they didn't follow her because they expect her to show up as an Otedola. They know that Otedola is not going anywhere. Even when they now see her as Temi Ajibade, people will not say, who is this one? We don't know this person. Now that we are seeing Ajibade behind her name, she's already known by herself. That's what I'm saying.
You're welcome. I'll empty my account. Is everybody your empty account for you? Be fine. And now the next question is but today you're gonna start this. What does it mean for a woman to marry down? Like, can a marriage truly work if a woman is marrying down? You know, I talked about this man before. You say, Eazi is Richard and Temi. It is Google that told me. I'm not in their bank account. But I asked Google, between Temi Otedola and Eazi, who is richer? And Google told me that Temi is richer than Otedola, richer than Eazi. So in that note, I'm going to ask this question: can marriage really work if a woman is worthier and more influential than the husband?
I am trying to avoid the rabbit of challenging that source that says Temi is richer than and Eazi. But I won't go there. Let me just answer the question that
it was AI that told me. It was Google AI that told me, and I don't know who put there that AI copied from.
AI knows. AI knows not. Reason why I'm saying that is because we know that Temi is an entrepreneur, right? Not disputing that. But when we're talking about who is rich, we should know that we should look at the things that they've done. Riches is not just something that floats around. It is tangible, from investments, your contribution to the society and all of that. So let me take you down memory lane. Eazi started his career as a tech guy. Eazi is actually a tech guy. He's a tech guy that works with tech companies that they build startups. Though he was not the CEO, but he works there, right? But of course, equity is there. I'm not even going to talk about his equity from the tech places that he works at. Then he ventured into music. And the time that he ventured into music, he owned his catalog. He understood the business of music early enough. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody can do that and not be wealthy. As much as I cannot say this is a particular amount of money.
Please remind me a song that Eazi sang. Me, I just know that everybody sings. I don't know a song. His song.
Eazi reigned with the likes of Davido when he was hot.
Okay, it's a boy Eazi.
It's a boy Eazi. With that bomb, that song.
Okay.
That's Mr. Eazi right there. That was when Eazi was. You know, he started singing and then he was associated with Ghana, so most people thought he was a Ghanaian. Let me not talk about Eazi. But the point that I'm making is Eazi could show us the tangible things that he had invested in. I don't know anything that Temi had invested in that is not attached to the name Otedola. That's what I'm saying. So to now say Temi is richer, maybe AI used the Otedola family wealth and all of that. I'm not going to say that. But we cannot now take Temi and say Temi is richer than Eazi based on that. But the point that you're saying...
let me be fair. I just want to use it to drive conversation. Let me be fair with Google. Google said the analogy came from Otedola's family. Like, since the father is going there, she can also tap into the father's wealth.
You see, so let's move on. The question, can a woman marry down? Honestly, I'm sorry for saying this. It is a one-sided conversation, because it is same people that will say women marry down are the same people that will be shouting male toxicity, or what do they call it, patriarchy. But what that exposes is the destruction of both claim, kind of like speaking from both sides of the mouth. If you know that when the lady marry a man that is not as wealthy as the lady is, you say down, right? But nobody say a man marry down when the man marries someone that is not. So the point that I'm making is, we agree that it is an anomaly for a lady to marry a man that is not as wealthy as she is. Correct, right? But then when a man now is higher, which is the right thing now, feminists will not agree that that is the right thing. That I just wanted to use that as a jab at the feminist community. Now back to what I said. I agree. If a lady marries down, I'm using your word now, there might be problem. But where is the problem coming from? Another thing that I want to destroy now is the claim that everything is about the man, because immediately feminists say the lady married down, the next thing they will say is the man is insecure. But you forgot the fact that what you just said is an anomaly behavior, and you're now judging the man for reacting to an anomaly behavior, but you're absolving the woman of whatever contribution she did to that anomaly behavior.
I think your grammar is now becoming too much now.
Oh, my grammar.
Anomaly.
Anomalous behavior. So what I'm saying is, we all agree that when a woman marry down, that is not the ideal situation, right? We agree. And then we'll still somehow find a way to blame the man, that in that situation, it is the man's insecurity that is causing problem, right? However, if two people get into an arrangement that is not ideal, right? Why are we not saying that the lady found it hard to submit as it will be in the right situation, but now it is not an ideal situation? The point that I'm making is this: the way of the way the world is created, the mechanism of the world. When a man makes money, the next thing the man thinks of is, how do I take care of a woman? You understand what I'm saying? The flip side of it, when a woman makes money, the next thing the woman think about is, I don't need a man. See, that is where the problem lies. No, it's the truth. That is where the problem lies. But of course, everything is still going to be blamed on a man. If a man reacts, because if a wife says, I don't need a man, definitely there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be an action towards that point, rather, not a reaction, an action towards that point. Now, if a man now reacts, which is well within the man's right as well, it becomes insecurity. When the woman acts, it is not a problem, but when the man reacts, it's insecurity. That is where the problem is. So let's not be talking about something that is not balanced. Let's balance it up. That's the point that I'm making. The reason why there's problem in a relationship where the woman is higher in terms of finances and the man is not, is because it's a case of a moving force and an immovable object. The woman is thinking, I don't need this man, and then the man is thinking, oh, this woman is not respecting me and all of that. So What leads to that is both contribution of the man and the woman. Now, how do you solve it? Honestly, it is for the man to not be lazy. You understand what I'm saying? Even if your wife is contributing more, ensure that you're doing your best as well. And for the woman to be submissive. I know that is going to trigger a lot of people, but sometimes when you have more money than your husband, that is where the burden is more on you to submit. Again, remember I said that when the woman makes money, the next thing is, I don't need the man. So it becomes hard to submit when the woman makes more money. That is the problem. So the woman needs to learn that submission in a hard way. That even though I can make this thing for myself, I will still need to submit to the leading of my husband. Because now, that was why I started that we've all agreed that the ideal situation is for the man to be the head of the house. Right? So the woman needs to learn that.
No, it's to be richer. To be richer and be the head. To be rich.
No.
The ideal situation is for the man to be richer.
The ideal situation is for the man to be the head, whether he's richer or not.
Okay, the ideal is for the man to be the head.
There's a prophet that married a rich trader in the Bible, the Quran. I don't want to say what right? The wife still submitted to the prophet. There was no case of the
my lord.
exactly.
I'm going to be calling him a virgin.
On that, I submit.
And I know you will help women help in this brush to this mouth.
But
Like,
you don't make me.
I know you will support women that when we marry them, insecurity that comes from the men, it's not our deal. It should be your deal. It is not me. Okay, let me be respectful. So what I mean is that for the fact that the woman is richer does not mean that her character may change. The same thing, what she would say when she was under you, it's the same thing she would say when she's richer. Now, but because men are just insecure, they start giving it meaning. Turn on the fan, turn off the fan. It could be because you are richer. That's why I say I should turn off the fan. Small thing can cause trouble because the woman is richer. And the woman is not going to have the peace. The same thing she would say if she was under. When she says it, when she has money, it has different meaning to your ears. Why and how?
Unfortunately, right, as much as I want to, I would love to, have your back. There's no evidence to prove this theory that you have just postulated. There's no evidence. Like, if you research it, most marriages were taking our very own Mrs. Alakija as an example. Most marriages where the wives have been richer, tend to fail. And I think I think I don't think it's because of the money. Hold on. I don't think it's because of the affluence. But of course, the affluence makes a major contribution to it. I just think it's because, these people did not really understand the roles of the husband and wife. And the roles of the husband and wife really is not solely dependent on money. Of course, the husband has the primary role of provision. You understand? But the challenge now is that when the woman has more affluence than the husband, the woman can tend to accept or reject, most of the time, reject, the provision that the husband makes in terms of shelter, in terms of feeding, in terms of clothing, in terms of choice of education. For instance, right, if I marry a woman who is richer than I am a proud person and I will still want to be able to fund everything. Yeah, I want to be able to play the role of the man, the role of the husband, not by shouting, but by being able to provide according to my capacity. Now, what happens is if the woman that I'm married to is richer and she says no, our child cannot go to this private school. It's too cheap. He has to go to a better private school, and all, which I know that I cannot single-handedly cover, right? So I have to then either be able to humble myself enough to know that I'm not capable of giving the child the kind of education that the woman wants, right? And the kind of education that the woman wants is not necessarily the education that, I think that the child needs. I want the child to have an education that I can fund and finance. And that's where the challenge comes in. Because when the woman has more affluence, there tends to be a hostile takeover. There tends to be options that people will tend to, give. And when you're unable to make up to the standard that she expects or people advise her to get to, you're probably being seen as a failure. And that's why most men tend to want to shy away. Look, a lot of people throw this topic around and say that why are men, feeling threatened by women who have more. It's just like you telling me now to go and marry a soldier, a female soldier. It's just like you telling me to go and marry a female soldier. I know she's probably tougher than I am, she's stronger than I am, she'll be able to do more drills than I am, right? And I hope she does not have it, but I would typically not choose that option. You understand? So as much as I want to say that the problem is not the men. If you look at the genealogy of marriage, how God has typically arranged marriage, the core responsibilities that the woman is supposed to play a support system. But when the woman is the one giving standards because of okay, go check it out. The women who are very rich, who are very wealthy, check out most of those marriages never work. They never work. And I don't even think it's majorly because of the money. I don't think it's majorly because of the influence that the money has on them. They tend to think that, of course, money is power. At the end of the day, money is power. Money controls a lot of things. So they tend to think that they can be able to, you know, do anything that they want. You understand? And that
So hold
indirectly
on. I'm
undermines.
just gonna cut you here.
Ask
Saying
you,
that money is
ask
power.
you, why do you think Mr. Femi Otedola typically told her, dear, the public face.
Hold on now. No, we
That
are
reference
going
that
there.
you
We are going to
must.
what you said. We are going to what you said. Hold on. Now let's
Mhm.
talk about money is power. Don't you think that's the same power that men have? Men that we agree that you need to be richer than us or you need to be the head. That when you have that money, it gives you that power and you abuse the power. So when the power now comes to the woman, you feel that the same way you use your own power is how the woman is going to use it. Because
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Unfortunately, it doesn't even work that way at all. You know why? If you check,
you know
when
how men use the money as a powerful
oh,
thing now. They'll tell
no,
you, we know it now, that the first thing that an insecure man first do is disempower the woman, make sure the woman does not have a strength, does not have money of her own, or
no.
probably when they have the money, they use it against the woman's wish, like I have money and I can tell you whatever. And they abuse the woman because they have money. Number two is that why did men subject themselves to their value in marriage to only money? That when you don't have money, you think you are useless. Do you think your value is only money? That take out money from you, we don't need you again. How could a woman think without like if I take out money from this man, I don't need him again? Why have your value be money only?
Can I
Your
respond?
today?
Can I respond to what you said just now?
Yes.
You see what you said? It's not a problem of the man. I'm sorry to say, it's a problem of the woman. What the man does in the house is not just money, but because women feel like just you said now that men use money as a tool to exert power. That's why women think that, oh, if I have money, then you won't be able to do this to me. You neglect the place of protection, you neglect the place of provision, you neglect the place of leading and direction. The point is, a woman with money cannot do every of these things that I say. You cannot protect, you cannot lead. I'm not saying this, I mean, using cannot may start another debate, but that is the truth. We know that. Even with children, we've talked about whether children should have a male figure in the house and all of that. We've talked about that on this platform, right? But the thing is, women look at just the money alone without looking at even the presence of the man. It's what being an head means. But unfortunately, when the woman have the money, they feel like now because I'm the man, I have the money now, then I should be doing the things of the man. It should be you're not man enough. Yeah, that's the word. Nobody ever said you're not woman enough. You will never hear that, because men will never think of taking the place of a woman in the household. Like, not because we have men that can cook, but we know that we don't have the capacity to do what women do. We don't have the capacity to be emotional like women will be emotional. Because our own cases, when things happen, we take decisions and like, oh no, you know, like we know our daddies now. Growing up, we know how our daddies behave, right? But the things that women do, women are actually the glue that glue the family together. Men cannot do that. And men cannot pretend to be able to do that. It is only women that will feel like, I can do what this guy is doing, then I don't need it. Men will never say, I can do what this woman is doing, so I don't need her. No.
They will say that they will contract the food. Is it not food that you are cooking? I'll go and buy food. Is it not cleaning? I'll employ somebody to clean my house.
Let me see. This is what I'm saying on the public. Before my wife, I go to restaurant. Is my wife arrived, I'm happy. My life has changed. So all those that we order food, it's not the same thing. It can never be the same thing. The feeling is different. You see, having a woman in the house with you makes sure, like, I mean, ballet, right? I'm sorry, maybe some of my friends will be saying this and they will be making jest of me. But that is the truth. Men will never claim to say that, oh, I don't need this woman. You will never hear a man say that. A woman that is bringing a man peace, I will now say I don't need someone. No. It is women that feels that that's where the saying starts. What a man can do, a woman can do better. You will never hear a man say what a woman can do, a man can do better. Like, because we know we cannot do it. And that's why I always say that when feminists shout about equality, they are basically what I'm trying to look for the right English to use. They are neglecting, they are actually trivializing the power that they have. There can never be equality. Men and women cannot be equal. I'm not talking about in terms of subjugation. I'm not talking about in terms of who is higher than who is. No, we're not the same. We're not. What we should be shouting for is equity. In the sense that in the areas where the men are strong, let's leverage their strength. In the areas where women are strong, let's leverage their strength. I can cook, but it doesn't come natural to me. You understand what I'm saying? So if I now say that I want to be cooking, I won't be able to do it perfectly. My wife can do that. My wife can also as well. But my goal is to minimize the level of also that my wife would ever do while I'm doing the also. My goal is to nurture my wife to be the best version of herself. Of course, my wife will nurture me as well. My goal of my wife is when I'm meeting the outside world and I'm being bashed, maybe someone at work talks one way to me, when I get home, my wife is that solace. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and they are safe. That is how it is with husband and woman. Your wife's bosom is supposed to be a safe space for you. That is what women do. The only thing men can offer is advice. You understand? That's why we jump to solution oriented whatever. And when women talk to us, and that's why women are always very angry with, oh, I'm talking to this woman. Instead of him to just listen to me, is providing solution. Is this solution that I'm looking for? That is because that is how men are wired. Imagine if a man, and that is why when we're talking to the to the women, we know what they are offering us, right? At least we know that. We don't get angry. But women expect the same, be emotional. The mortgage, emotional. So that's the point that I'm making about the question that you asked. It is, we shouldn't be putting it in the box of, oh, where men do this. No, it is equity. That's the major thing. Whether you're richer than your husband, look at areas where your husband is fulfilling his role. It doesn't have to be finances alone, just as Mr. Ajashegun said, right?
Okay, thank you. So now let's go back to submission. You know, in our conversation, we are almost going to submission, but let me now lead us there. Talking about submission. In this age and time, in this 2025, that women are multifaceted. Women can do a lot of things, and men can also do a lot of things. Like, you can also cook by yourself. You can go to classes to learn to cook. You can go to classes to do so many things women are doing. And also, women can go to classes to learn a lot of things men are doing. And we are talking about submission. Is submission still a sign of love and respect, or it's just a tool that men use, you men, to control women and steer them like this? And when you're tired of controlling them in the name of submission, manipulating them in the name of submission, you throw them.
So I love being asked this, because I have a ready-made answer for this question every time.
What is it?
The problem starts, two things that I see as the social part and the cultural and religious part. Let me start with the social part. And I know that Mr. Ajashegun will agree with me on this, because I think he had mentioned it before. The crop of parents that we have, I think I want to say from the time of millennials and Gen Z and all of that, caused this. Because right now, we're raising men to be emotional, and we are raising women to be strong. That is wrong. Men should be tough and women should be emotional. Now we are interchanging the role of the both gender. It will not work, because we're going against the culture, no, not culture now, the way of the jungle. Let me put it that way. The second part, which is the cultural and religious part, and I'll delve towards the religious part. You see, when we hear people talk about submission, I've never heard anybody talk about submission in a balanced way. It is always a one-sided way. Either the men using the submission part to the advantage, or the women using the love part to the advantage. So whenever they quote that very popular verse of the Bible, women, submit to your husband, right? Men, love your wife as Christ loved the church. They forget that in the things of the Bible is not written in verses. I hope we know it's a continuous text. So when we're talking about context, everything works together. And in that particular context, there's a saying that says, love, submit to one another. So people neglect that, right? Because they know that by the time you get into that, it breaks the argument that they want to say with submission. And it breaks the argument that they want to say with love. That's one part. Number two.
How come you agree with me?
No, I'm getting some. The very passage that people quote about submission and love is actually holistic, in the sense that they are saying that you quote it as if it is the job of the wife to submit and submit alone, and you quote it as if it's the job of the husband to love and love alone. But are women not loving their husband? So what that means is submission itself is love. So even as a husband, there are times that you will submit to your wife. The submit here is not in prostrating for your wife or being lesser than your husband, your wife. It is in agreement. There are things that your wife would have, like, of course, it's not like you take decisions without informing your wife, right? But there are some areas that when you want to do something, your wife will say, oh, I would rather we do it this way. Let me give an example. When we want to buy electronics in the house, I don't expect my wife to have the final say when it comes to electronics. What does she know about electronics? You understand? When we want to buy food stuff, or
you want to design the curtain of your house, it is not your own jurisdiction.
Exactly. I should not have the final say there because I know nothing about it. Why? Because my wife knows. That is submitting to my wife. If you want to buy a house and you're now going it alone, my brother, my sister, you will move out of that house very soon. Because if the wife does not like that house, he doesn't like it near. So there are some decisions. The way my father-in-law put it, and I know a lot of people have been saying it, I've been saying the quote, was that whenever we want to take decisions, we leave the hard decisions to me and the easy decisions to my wife. And he said, ever since we got married, we've never had to take hard decisions. You understand? You see that wise thing there, right? That is what submission is. So submission is not a tool of subjugation in the hand of the man. It's just that everybody do not really understand the concept of submission. And by that way, we've been quoting it as it's. And again,
and by that way, a lot of your gender have been abusing women, saying you must submit to my lordship.
Again, I'm not going to say that I obey my gender of anything. But the point that I'm making is everybody, the same way you're saying this about my gender is the same way women also are now saying that why should I submit to someone that didn't do anything, right? That is not up to whatever. But when that instruction was given, it was not saying it is conditioned on something. You understand what I'm saying? It is about doing your part and then the other person doing their part. Of course, I've given an analogy about what you expect from the other person, right? If you're giving your 100%,
Okay.
and then you expect the person to match your exact 100%, you'll be frustrated. Again, let me not go. Let me just stop here, and then.
Thank you so much. Adeshegun. So now, I
Yeah.
know your submission, you still not. I've known you so much. I know you what you can say already. So, are you in line with what Brotode said, or you have something else to add to it before I move to the next question?
So what Brother said is very profound. Like, it's very profound. To even make it easy, right? When I was growing up, and when we're growing up, there wasn't always much emphasis. It seems now that there's always everybody's preaching is submit, submit, love, love, love. Is when the whole thing is not even working. When we're growing up, the idea of courtship really worked in a practical way, such that you don't have to emphasize. You don't even have to even doubt whether the guy loves the girl or whether the girl loves the guy. You would definitely see it. The decisions of them being together would be theirs alone, and they will make it, look real. So nobody needed to go to force any woman to be submissive, and nobody needed to go to force any man to love their wife. You understand? In the real case where they started from, from the scratch. So it just feels like, for instance, someone like me, I don't like to emphasize on things. I just like to be very practical, and I don't like to talk too much. You understand? Probably one of the reasons why I find it difficult to cope in the modern day relationship. But the point is that submission is paramount. And if, as a wife, it has to be taught to you, over and over and over and over again, then there's something wrong with the wife's upbringing. And if as a man too, you have to be told to love your wife, then you have probably made a wrong selection from the start. Because nobody really tells a man to love his wife. And you know, it's not a shock, because the focus of of men and women now when they are selecting spouses is it makes it evident that and that's why they fall into the wrong hands. For instance, what attracts a man to a woman these days? Things I would not even want to talk about. So at the end of the day, when he finds somebody who
Is
has,
Uku.
so
Uku.
at the end of the day, when he finds somebody who has, and that's the reason why they're superficial things, superficial, and that's the reason why you have to now teach them to love their wife, because the thing that the man fell in love with initially, right, are superficial things that he's probably going to find. He's going to find another bigger one, better one, you know, very soon in other women. So hence, you have to continue to teach the sermon of love your wife. You need to love your wife. You need to love your wife. And the same reason why the woman also would only want to submit, because he probably thought that he had this level of affluence, and if that affluence is no longer, and that's what scares me the most, you know, meeting somebody at a time when you are doing very well in life, and then maybe, you know, life happens, and then you discover that the person is a totally different person. So as long as these are the parameters to which we use to select our spouses, we will have to continue to emphasize love your wife, and wife submit to your husband. Mm.
Stop using that as a truth to control us anymore. So I hope this, by what Papa said, Eazi will not stand on it and use it to haunt the ladies. Your daddy told me, your daddy said, you submit to me, so go and bring all your property, go and bring it to my name. And also, your daddy said you should submit to me. You don't need to work again. Your daddy said you should submit to me. You don't need to eat again. Okay, now moving on. So when love and traditions, because everything that we discussed earlier, they were more how it should be, like it's tradition. And we'll talk about love and tradition. In the case of changing name, tradition allows it. Love may be lenient on it. And they talk about marrying down. Somebody, a woman is worth there. Tradition expects it to be the other way around. And if it's because of submission too, tradition says a woman should submit to the man. So between tradition and love now, which one should win? Should love win, or tradition should be the one to navigate the relationship and makes it better? Or when there's love, all these things will not matter. So which one should win in this conversation? But Ajashegun.
Yeah, I think that tradition should supersede. Yes, because um, um, sometimes I think sometimes love is not enough to navigate the shores of marriage and relationships. I think sometimes you find yourself falling out of love. And I think what tradition teaches is commitment. That when you give your word to somebody that I'm going to be your husband, you're going to be my wife, it goes beyond the days when you feel bad, when you're not in a good mood, and it also goes beyond whatever happens. And when you go and take that vow and say for better, for worse, they are real vows. You understand? So if you choose to act right only when you feel the love, then you have set yourself up for failure. And that's why I always talk about traditional men, and that's why I always emphasize on the traditional way of finding love. You understand? Because when you find love in a traditional way, in fact, you probably don't even know yourself. You see somebody from afar and you like the person, and they send somebody in your family to go and meet their family, and that's how the whole thing happens. It's not about all the time you both started the conversation, but they know that at the end of the day, you guys owe yourselves the commitment. It goes beyond how you feel. And I think the problem with with the world now is because the world is evolving, actually. The world is evolving too much. The world is embracing too much fresh ideas, and that's why. Look, I read this man's post yesterday, Charlie Boy, and I could relate with what he said. He said that his son is still single, that his son was married, went through a traumatic experience, and ever since then, the guy has been scared of ever trying it again. You understand? So, but I think in traditional cases where you know where you are being told what and what to do, where you must commit to these terms, and as much as people try to vilify the Igbo tradition, do you know that they have one of the biggest and longest, thriving marriages in Nigeria? Because you cannot just say you are not interested anymore as a woman. They will even tell you don't come back to your father's house as long as there's no domestic violence involved. So I would pick tradition over love. It still does not mean that there's no love involved in traditional means of finding a relationship. And don't forget, the conversation is not about me.
Since you were able to relate with what Charlie Boy said, I just haven't asked you. Now, question I asked you. Anyways, bro, today, between love and tradition, love gives us leniency and love gives us the opportunity to just do what will make us happy. So far, you're good with it. So far, I'm good with it. Your husband is good with it. Your wife is good at it. Even if it doesn't make sense to the society or the tradition, should we go ahead or we need to follow what tradition says?
Tradition is the basis of who we are. That's our identity, right? Sorry, hold on. There's a basis of our identity, and tradition is not there to mislead us. It is to guide us. What love will not make you do things that will go against tradition. You understand what I'm saying? As long as, I'm not talking about the love of that there's some misguided love. I'm not talking about the misguided love. But if you love your husband and you love your wife, you won't do anything. There's really nothing that is expected of you to do that tradition will frown at. Except, of course, if you're, and I'm trying to think about what you're looking at now, which is tradition as a case of how tradition talks about submitting. If you're not submitting,
it's about the whole three things we're talking about.
If you're
the
not
change of name, who is worthier, insecurity, and submission.
Yeah. So if I love my husband, why couldn't I change my name to his name? Why is it a bad thing for me to change my name to his name? If I love my wife and my wife wants to change, my wife is torn between changing her name to my name, and I know my wife has built a brand for that name that will take years to rebuild with my name, I will be lenient in saying that, you know what, hold on to it, or at least pick a compound name. You understand? That's what I'm saying. Now, tradition is put on the side there. That's what you say. But in the real sense of it, it is not an enforced thing from tradition, at least now. So to summarize, sorry, I'm getting distracted. If you love your wife, following tradition will not be a hard thing to do. Sorry, I'll talk to you. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah, go and attend to that boy. That's how they do sometimes. So now, Ajashegun, I agree with you. Love tradition, anything that goes. But our modern marriages now, are we redefining today's marriage? Are we still following tradition, or because we are not following tradition again, that's why we have a lot of breakups? And no, I know you're saying yeah.
Definitely, yes.
But can't we
Definitely,
just
because
evolve with the word and make it work too?
no, the world is sick. That's why we can't follow what everybody does in the world. The world is a sick place to be. People have different ideas about marriage. Different people have different ideologies about marriage. People have different ideas about everything. In fact, there are people who use marriage as business. Marry one, divorce him, get out of his property. Marry another one. Are you not shocked that like I read that 80% of the richest men and women on Forbes list made their wealth by marrying billionaires and divorcing them? Are you not shocked? That none of them
Ó ti bọ́ olóòtú.
Yeah, Mr. Today is back.
Yeah, okay. No, you go ahead. When you're done, we'll jump on it.
Okay, so basically, I think that I think that modernization of the concept of marriage is one of the problems. Like there's always a new idea. Somebody's trying to introduce a new idea about marriage, about what marriage should be. Go online, that everybody's a married counselor, everybody's a married therapist, everybody's a marriage. Everybody. If you just give anybody the microphone now, they begin to speak, they begin to advise, they begin to, even those who have not even married. So, and that's the more reason why you should know that the traditional ways, the traditional rules never changed. But the modern rules, everybody has an idea or the other. Look at what the topic you brought the other time, that you talked about one sexual thing that you called something and dominance. Is it not an idea that these modern people brought now to spice up activities in the inner room? You know, everybody has different ideas on what to do to make it work. So, and that's the more reason why the traditional way of marrying and finding love is the ideal way for me. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I thought I was on. So, bro, today, do you think modern marriages are redefining roles and the power in a relationship, or we should stick to our old style of marriage?
The more than we get, the
Let's
danger.
grow now. I think I'm gonna grow. Any people here
The more
grow.
than we get, the more danger the institution of marriages, of marriage face. We are destroying the fabric of marriage as we become modern. What is modern? Modern is, oh, we want to, oh, let's do it differently. But sometimes that they saying in technology world, if it is not broken, don't fix it. There's nothing wrong with the institution of marriage. So what are we fixing? That's the question.
So many things were wrong, though. The idea of polygamy was even terrible. Thank God for modern marriage that says it's monogamy we should be doing. Polygamy will make you lose your blood pressure, especially for women. No, we need to talk about it. We said if it's not break, you should not fix. Was polygamy a good idea for women? I shall know what now. Thank God for the word that was evolving. I said now it's one man, one wife.
Do you know that religion or culture does not explicitly say that you must marry multiple wives? The teaching that even Islam reference is not a ticket, because there's a clause to it. And again, I want to believe that Quran itself is not a verse script. It's continuous. Ngoti oni anabi wa Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sọ pé o lè fẹ́ me as long as tó bá lè ṣe déédéé pẹ̀lú wọn. But the teaching there is you cannot ṣe déédéé with two people. Do you know there's a saying that two children born in the same house does not have the same parental upbringing? So that is even children, no? Because the way you relate with one child is different from the way you relate with the second child. So it's more of a teaching. You cannot be upstanding with two people the same way. It's not possible. Let me give you another one that I know about the teaching of I'm probably saying this is probably something inaccurate. Maybe the Muslims will help me here, but I heard it from one Wasi that the Prophet Anabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also said that when you're praying, right, and you can keep your mind blank with God throughout the time that you're praying, and you ask for one thing, that thing will be granted to you. But, and then the way they said the story was when, again, pardon me if I'm not saying it accurately, but one, maybe the person said Sabe wanted to do it to keep the mind blank with not thinking about anything, just God. That before he could finish, his mind wandered off. That is how hard some of these things are. I'm using that to buttress the point about you can marry more wives as long as you can be upstanding with the person. What that means is if you're thinking about this person, you're thinking about this person at that same time. You're relating with that person at the same thing. Because even if you buy something for one person and you're buying it for the second person, you won't hand it to them at the same time. The fact that you give it to one before the other had already exposed that you're not upstanding. So you won't even want to argue that, oh, what if I buy the same thing for the two of them? But you're not giving it to them at the same time. You understand? So that is so to me, I don't think the teachings of the religion, and of course in the Bible, there was no thing that says that especially marry multiple wives. You understand what I'm saying?
Then why were our forefathers teaching us with multiple wives? Even going here, SFA don't say, "Hey, I can't bring them."
Well, yeah, more not you have to fight as but me can't sing. But yeah, no, everybody.
Yeah, oh, hey, I can't bring them. But our forefathers were marrying multiple, and they were cheating. Those were the abuse that we had in. So apart from that, what's it called, that discrepancy of powers over the women in the course of marrying multiple wives and abusing them, probably disappearing them, using food to punish them, because you offended me today, I'll not give you food. Those things were just abuse. Aside that, everything about marriage is okay for me.
I agree with you.
That's all that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining, and we were able to look into the changing of name. That it's not really it depends on the family dynamics. If you want to change, good for you. If your husband wants it, just follow what is applicable for you. And if you have a brand name already that you want to change, that's why they say one poor person does not have a brand, just want to keep his father's name because he loves his father. Because she loves her father. I don't know why you do that. Other people too love their fathers too. And also when you marry if a woman married down, everybody just have to maintain good energy, because if the moment you start having negativity and start thinking too deep, they start saying faults in her. And also the woman starts feeling that the man is insecure. And submission is still a virtue in marriage. We still need to learn to submit. It's not a part of that evolution that we're talking about. Submission is still a very long line, evergreen virtue in marriage. Even those people who are copying, they still submit. So this is what is it? It's still a virtue. Sincerely, it's still a virtue. Sometimes I just joke around some topics but virtue submission is not part of those things that left The marriage is evergreen. We still need to submit, and two captain cannot run a cab. Like even in our general offices, when we have a team member, both of you could be a team member, but you have a team lead. There's a reason for that team lead, and that does not mean that that team lead is going to abuse the team members. So that is all that we have for today. Thank you for joining us, everyone who were part of today's program. Ajashegun, you and Michael. Thank you. See you again some other time.
All right. Thank you, man.
Bye. Maria to the family.
Agba.